Hello everyone and welcome again to IGT. On this episode, I would like to take you all on a journey to Sydney Road, Brunswick, where we are going to meet a friend of mine, Mr. Peter Volaris, who's been in the industry, the music industry, for over 50 years. He just celebrated his 50-year anniversary of his shop, and I took my friend Skippy, Yasu. I took my friend Skippy to the show so he can understand what Greek music is all about. Enjoy. Yasu, Peter.
Yes, I was there. Yes.
Of course, Skip is with us.
Yes,
Mr.
absolutely.
No,
I couldn't miss out playing,
you couldn't.
playing this.
What's that?
That's a junior bouzouki.
For a junior burger.
That's it. That's it. I'm not going to play Smoke on the Water.
No, you won't. Not
Peter
yet.
said don't play it.
Peter, please tell us which part of Greece is your heritage from?
I was born in Limnos in 1945, went to primary school there, and at the age of about 12 I came to Australia.
You would have been one of the first Greeks.
Well, not quite, but it was 1957 when I landed in Australia.
You weren't even in nappies.
No, it was just a thought.
Yes.
So you came here at 12 years old. How did you find a young Greek boy coming to a country and you spoke no English, I gather?
I did pick up English very, very quickly. In fact, within a couple of months, the teacher had me standing in class, reading out what was then the school paper. That was within about 2 months.
Wow. And your education took you how far before you had the passion for music?
Well, my father was a musician on the island of Limnos, and my grandfather was playing the lira before that. My father was a violin player and a lira player. He actually taught me the violin to start off with. I did it for about 2 years. And then I picked up the accordion. That's the one I studied most. Those sounds that I acquired at that time, the scales and the modes and sort of thing, I carry them to this day. And a lot of my compositions are very much based on the influences I had from Limnos as a young child.
How did the music journey begin in Australia for you?
Well, even in the early days, I was performing with my father at various functions surrounding us with other people from Limnos. When I was at the age of about 17, thereabouts, I joined a band called Los Cubanos. So I was with them for about 7 years. I was about the youngest of the Greek musicians at that time. That's when my music career started. I went to a very great teacher in Tony Andrews, a school in Footscray, and he really inspired me. He showed me so much in music. From then on, I was able to progress and move on to other things like becoming a teacher with the education department and doing all those nice things. You know, I was a classroom music teacher, secondary teacher for about 8 years with the education department. Most of the musicians of my generation or of the next generation that we saw around Melbourne playing here were ex-students of mine. I had a very successful school, I still have. I had huge numbers. There were times where I had nearly 300 students, and they were all Greek students.
Here?
Yeah.
300?
Yeah. I'd have 30-piece Greek orchestras, youth orchestras.
After you left Los Cubanos, where did your musical journey take you?
I really blossomed as far as Greek music goes. So we formed a band with Steve Hondros, Steve Popoulis. We had Hari Agueras, but he moved on. But we got young John Papadakis. So really the five of us stayed on since then. And, we just moved on, started recording and travelling around, doing performances in Sydney, all over Australia, and even in overseas, Singapore and those places. It was a very eventful and very fulfilling era.
So Peter, tell us about the compositions.
Well, the compositions started before 70s. I did some songs with Vasilia Thanasopoulou at that time, with some singles, and later on when we did Levendopoda, I did the Levendopoda album, and one of the popular songs at the time was La Scala Scanitza, a very popular song, and we ended up playing it at the Glendy Festival, which was see the post over there. I had people singing La Scala Scanitza, the audience. It was a top hit at that time. We had something like 60,000 people there.
60,000?
Yep.
So the whole hill would have been covered with Greeks?
Yes.
Wow.
Later on, in the early 1990s, I had a visit from Philip Judd from the Split Ends.
Oh my God, Split Ends.
Yeah.
How big were they?
Oh, came in here and he said, "Oh, I want to buy Bouzouki to write Greek music." I said, "Well,
It's not that easy.
it's not quite like that. So if you're going to make it, we'll make it authentic." I said, he said, "Well, will you?" Said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, look, I compose music." So he came down to my house and I got him to listen to some of music. And then he said, "Okay, Peter, here's a 15-minute video. Write me for this scene, that scene, and that scene."
What was the movie?
Death in Brunswick.
Death in Brunswick. Oh my goodness, so you composed for that as well?
Yeah, Death in Brunswick.
Must have been me. Sorry. Death in Brunswick.
We had a crew that came in, an American crew that came in looking for traditional instruments. Yeah, they were filming the sequel to Rendezvous with the Vampire.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yes, they came in here and I showed them a few instruments, old instruments that I had in here, and they said, no, not quite. And I said, "What's the scene?" He said, "Well, we're doing a shoot down at Port C on the beach with a bonfire."
Yeah.
Anyway, I said, "Look, I do have another instrument. That was my father's lira." And I had it at the back. And I showed them, said, "That's what we're looking for."
Wow.
Years later, they used it in the film. We were so overwhelmed for a few days. We were hopping around with my father. It was just quite funny. It was fantastic, yeah.
Tell me a couple of minutes with the shop.
So in 1975, after I did 8 years with the education department, there was an opportunity for me to do what I always wanted to do, create my own music centre. So in 1975, I started the music centre with lots of students, lots of teachers and musical instruments and whatnot. Next year, we're celebrating 50 years.
I was going to say, if you do the maths, it's 50 years you've been here
50 years,
for.
yeah,
Wow.
50 years. Look, I could not have done it without the support of my family, and in particular my son Ken. He really runs the thing. I just throw a few ideas around and pick on a few people and that.
I'm going to leave you for 1 second. I'm going to go grab Ken and bring him here. So this is Ken, everybody. This is the support system. Yes,
The support
Ken.
system, I always say.
The family support. Ken Volaris, please tell us about your story growing up with Dad as a musician. When did you get into music?
Oh, look, I've been involved in music and especially in the store ever since I can remember. I still recall, going to primary school, grade 1, and during school holidays coming and working at the shop and earning whatever I was earning back then, and going back after 2 weeks back to school, I was like a millionaire.
Even with slave labour?
It was slave labour. A dollar a day back then got you a lot of mixed lollies,
A
right?
lot of mixed lollies. You would have been a favourite amongst all my kids.
Absolutely. Well, we started off learning the piano, I think I would have been about 6 or 7 years old. Yeah, started there. Then after I sort of found my passion for playing bass guitar. So I started playing bass when I was in year 11. And as it happened, around that time, the bass player that was involved in Dad's band, he was going overseas for a little stint. And Dad said, "Well, you're playing bass. You know how to read music. If you get stuck, just follow my left hand." And so the first gig I ever did, I could swear that my eyes were just glued on Dad's left hand, see what he was playing, and I was just playing accordingly.
And your hand was full of blisters, I remember.
Yeah, full of blisters, and Then after that, I think around the year 2000, Dad decided to hang up the keys, and I jumped onto the keys.
No, you tapped me on the shoulder.
It wasn't a tap.
Time to go.
It wasn't a tap. It was more of a shove. But anyway, then basically kept the band going until a couple of years ago, really.
Seriously, you played till a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
And now I'm just doing MC work. So.
You are?
Yep.
My goodness,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah, still keeping it going. So.
Bravo, Masihari Giri.
Yeah,
I'm very,
thank
very
you.
proud to see that someone's taken over my legacy. Skippy, any last questions for the Greek musicians?
I'm just happy that I've met these lovely people. It's fantastic.
Bit of a jam session?
Yes, a little bit of a jam session with Papu.
Thank you very much.
We're all right.
It was a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Awesome.
Cancer,
Thanks, mate.
That's amazing, Skippy.
Hey.
Well done.
Thank you.
What did you think? What's that?
I've got a new toy.
What's it called?
A baby bazooka.
A bouzouki.
Bazooka.
Bouzouki.
No, Skippy say bazooka.
Listen, it's a bouzouki.
Okay, it's a bazooki.
So, what do you reckon?
I think it's fantastic. I've got a new toy to play with.
So, what did you think of Mr. Peter Volaris at the shop?
He was a legend. Actually, I heard of him in the early days, in the 70s.
Yeah.
I just had no connection who he was until we went and saw him. And I went, wow, he's certainly done a lot.
He has, and that's why I took you there.
Yeah.
Funny story about you playing bouzouki and me trying to play a musical instrument. Back in the days when I met Peter Volaris and other musicians, we were doing weddings. I was the MC, Peter was the boy in the band, Ken also had his, go at the band. But the story is that back in those days, people smoked and drank and played music. It was just a normal thing, right?
Yeah.
So in order for me to participate and help the musicians, when they'd go for a cigarette and the bride was still dancing, they used to swap each other's instruments around.
Exactly.
So no one wanted to play drums. I thought, hey, I'll put my hand up. I'll play drums badly. You go have a cigarette. I'll fill in the meantime. And the fun we had doing music, shows, weddings, and people mixing instruments around. There was no laws. It was just free. There you go. Just like you.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was like that in the 70s and 80s.
It was, mate.
The cigarettes and the fun and the music.
That's what it was.
It was all part of everyone clapping, yeah. And drums, you were pretty good.
I tried very hard not to be.
Well, I did work with you once.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
So anyway, that was what Mr. Volaris and the show was all about. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And just while I'm talking to you at the end of this show, I would like to ask everybody who's watching to let us know what stories you want to see next, so we can go and interview those people. If you know someone in the Greek community that's an unsung hero, someone who has given and doesn't want anything back in return, or there's a magical story about something that someone is doing within the Greek community, please let us know. We'd love to interview them. We want human stories, real stories, people that are legends that no one knows about. That's what we want to hear about. So please let us know. Drop us a line, text, email, respond, whatever. We're here for you. Have a good night. Thank you. And Yasu.
Yasu.